Hey YouTube, this is Bill. On my last video, I actually said I wasn't going to do a sound demo, but I've gotten so many questions and a lot of interest in the S1 Pro setup using one S1 Pro, using two as a pair, and then using a pair with Sub1. So I'm getting questions that I can't answer without actually demoing, using a full demo. So what I've decided to do today is to get a accurate level on each component. So what I mean is I'm going to start with the first S1 Pro by itself, and I'm going to play a track, and I'm going to measure it with the dB meter, and that'll be my baseline. Then from there, I'll add the second S1 Pro together as a pair, and then we'll get that figure, two playing together. After that, again, playing the same track, the same volume, I'll add one Sub1 with the pair and get that figure. And then eventually I'll kick in both Sub1s at the same time and get the figure. And then finally, I'm going to set up the system differently, and that is I'm going to set up the system through a Bluetooth module, the source going into the subwoofer first, and that is supposed to give even more headroom and more fidelity. So again, I want to emphasize I'll be using the same track. So we can A/B it. The only variable changing will be adding the components. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by bringing up the dBs on the S1 Pro as loud as it can go before clipping. So as soon as I see red on the back, that's when I'm going to stop. So even though technically the system can go louder in the real world, I'm not going to push my own speakers to damage. So I'm going to stop at that point. But I just want to make it clear that in the real world, if you're playing a gig, you can go past red. Bose says if it's clipping slightly, it shouldn't damage it. To do my testing, I'm going to be using a pair of sound hearing protection. So I want to emphasize I'm going to be close to a speaker doing the setup before I finally get that red mark. I'm going to be pretty close and it's going to be loud, so I'm going to protect my hearing. So if you want to try something like this, definitely don't do it without hearing protection. I'm going to be using a dB meter, and again I'm going to be using the same track for each demo. One of the main reasons I'm doing this comparison is because the S1 Pros, even though how wonderful they are, the clarity, their one weakness is, for a small speaker, they do have a limit where when you push it past that limit, they start to distort and get harsh. So I want to find that limit so I can give people a recommendation how loud they can go. And again, I'm not a DJ, but people are asking in their comments, how many people can one S1 Pro handle? I believe the answer is 50 from Bose. How many people can a pair handle in a DJ situation? And I'm not sure. That's why one of the reasons I'm doing this. I'm believing close to maybe 75. Then when you add the Sub1 to the mix, how many people would be the max in a DJ dancing situation? I've heard 150, but again, that is nothing I've tested myself. Maybe some people who have actually tested this system in a live situation can comment. Okay, we're ready for our first sound demo. So what I did is just now I spent a little time behind the speaker playing the same track, and as soon as I saw the red clip light start flashing, I backed it off. So right now we have 0 clipping, so this will be maximum headroom before clipping. Okay, let's see what we got. 100.4. Very loud, very clear. There is zero distortion from the S1 Pro at this volume, which I don't think many other speakers of this size can lay that claim. So that is what makes this speaker so valuable, especially to acoustic musicians. It stays clear at good volume. But if I push this much more, maybe, because remember, it is rated at 109 dB maximum, so that's considerable, 9 more decibels. But if I pushed it, it will start getting harsh, and it won't be pleasant to the ear. But at this volume, before clipping, I thought it sounded excellent. Very impressed. Okay, we're ready for sound demo number 2, and that is one S1 Pro that you see, and there's only one Sub1 engaged. I didn't want to take the other one away. I know it's a little confusing for someone who's not paying attention, but there's only one Sub1 engaged, and it's pretty loud. I just tested it. On the source, the iPad, I have it at 1 notch below maximum, so let's call that 95%. Let's walk over here to the S1 Pro. Okay, here is my volume. I have it set at about 330. And I want to emphasize, that's one of the weaknesses of a small speaker. Once you run out of room on your source, once you run out of room on your speaker, that's it. You're not going to get much more. So that's when people need to get the larger speaker. So if you need more than this kind of dB, this test will tell you. So here behind the subwoofer, well, it's kind of hard to show you, but I was able to go to 3 o'clock on the subwoofer before that started to clip red. Okay, so I think we're ready for our sound demo. Here's the results, 101.2 with the Sub1 engaged. And it was very, very loud in this home. And again, I'm gonna say it's in a very large living room area with cathedral ceilings. And it was so loud during the test, I did wear the headgear, the ear protection during the test. So personally, I couldn't even tell you exactly how it sounds clarity-wise because I had hearing protection on, but even through the hearing protection, the house was shaking. One of the things I want to point out is I am getting some extra bass in this setup. I have the subwoofer 1 foot from that wall behind it, you see, and that does give a little extra. They call that sound reinforcement. I believe that gives you another 3 dB of headroom from a subwoofer. And what the acoustic engineers say, which this is the research I've read, they say within 1 or 2 feet from a wall, you get that extra 3 dB of boost bass. But if it's past 2 feet, between 2 feet and 7 feet, you're actually going to get bass cancellation. So they said, let's say you're at 3 feet from a wall, pull it out to 8 feet, and that will solve that problem. So that's a little interesting fact. But again, I am getting a little sub boost because of the proximity to the wall. So if you're trying to get the same volumes I'm getting on these tests, and you're not getting them, maybe it's because you don't have the wall right behind you available. And of course, a corner is even more. I'm not in a corner here, I'm just against the wall. The next demo I'm going to do is I'm taking the Sub1 out of the chain, and I'm going to be pairing up 2 S1 Pros by themselves. Here is the app, the Bose Connect app, and I'm showing you how I have them hooked up in stereo mode, left and right, which is wonderful. Wireless connection. So this app, I'm very impressed. I've mentioned this in other videos where I'm running that second speaker right there. And if you look closely, there is no wire connecting. It's kind of like magic. That's your Bluetooth connection. So I think we're about ready for the demonstration. Again, I want to emphasize there's no sub engaged this time. Sub 1 is off. You're just going to be hearing the two S1 Pros together. Here's the second S1 Pro. During the sound test, I tried raising the gain on channel 3, the Bluetooth channel, and I kept raising it, and it never clipped into the red. So this channel is lower than the first channel, and I heard that's normal when you're connecting two wirelessly. So again, when you run out of room on your gain pot, you can't make it go any louder. Some people, of course, using a mixer, that solves that problem because a mixer gives you that much extra headroom. But this is a wireless Bluetooth setup, and I'm at my max on this particular speaker. And we're ready for the next sound demo. Again, it's going to be two S1 Pros paired together wirelessly, Bluetooth, no subwoofer engaged. Wow, 103.2. Adding that second S1 Pro in a pair really makes a difference. Again, I was wearing hearing protection. You start playing this kind of volume, one sound demo after another, and your ears are going to be ringing. So I'm not taking that chance. With the hearing protection, I could feel it's loud, but it's not affecting me. But obviously, I'm not hearing the clarity that you would hearing it without anything covering your ears. This next demo is going to be interesting. 103 dB we got with the two S1 Pros as a pair. And now I'm going to kick in that one Sub 1. And I haven't touched it. It's at the same gain I showed you before. Nothing has changed. Everything is the same on the other S1 Pro. So this is going to be an interesting test. And it's interesting for myself because I've never done this before. Here we go. So that experiment shocked me. I'm still speechless. I don't know what to say. I don't know what the conclusion is. The 103 is basically not changed, even with that incredible bass kicked in. So what that tells me is the bass doesn't really add dBs. It won't change your audience size. That was one of the main reasons I was doing this comparison test, A/B test. So it's telling me a lot. Of course, the sound is completely different. For the dancers, they're gonna love it, that bass. That's what they come to dance to. But as far as adding more number of people, I don't think you can add more people. It's not gonna jump from 175 to 200 people just by adding the subwoofer. Well, we have a couple more tests to do, and that is to add the second Sub 1, which basically I've told you in past videos equals the Sub 2. And that's gonna pretty much conclude our test. And from what I've seen, I'm not too hopeful the dB is going to go much over 103. But let's find out. I've never done this before. I'm doing it with you. Let's find out. Well, that concludes the demo and 103.7. So again, it's confirming that even adding two sub-1s doesn't really change the decibels of the original pair of S1 Pros. I'm very surprised, but these are the hard facts. But I tell you the truth, I was wearing hearing protection and I felt it in the gut. It was much stronger with the second sub-1. And again, vibrations, the house is shaking. So there's a huge difference. But for some reason, the bass doesn't affect the max decibels. Maybe someone with more knowledge about acoustical engineering can chime in what's going on. I don't really understand it, but I could feel it. There's a huge difference. I want to repeat something I had said in the previous videos. Two subwoofers touching like this or within a couple of inches of each other, or at least less than a foot apart, is called coupling. And when you put the two subwoofers together like this, you're going to get another free 3 dB of low end free. So I've heard other people in their comments said, yes, I have the same system. I have two S1 Pros over two sub-1s, and I have one sub-1 holding up the S1 Pro on my left, and the other second S1 Pro on a pole over the second sub-1 on the right, 15 feet apart. And you're kind of defeating the purpose of having the two subwoofers. Unless they're together like this, you're not going to get the benefit of it. It's going to look great, but you're not getting the benefit of coupling. And if you ever, when you've been to professional shows, you'll see the sound techs, they do stack the subwoofers, or even if the subwoofers are flying in the air, they have them all hooked together. So that's something you want to be aware of, something called coupling. Another mistake I've seen is for the people that are using one sub-1 on the floor horizontally, and then they have a pole that has a special mount that is able to hold two S1 Pros. The problem with that is the two S1 Pros are within, I would say, 2 or 3 feet of each other. So you're losing, basically, you're losing the stereo imaging because they're too close together. You're running into phase issues. So that is really not recommended, even though it's convenient and it looks kind of nice, very neat in one package on one pole, two S1 Pros on a pole together, but that is not recommended. Again, the recommendation, couple your two sub-1s, either vertically like this is, or horizontally on the floor, and then have your two S1 Pros separated left and right on poles, at least 10 to 15 feet apart. Okay, let's wrap this up by going over some of the statistics that we got here. So the first figure we have here is 100.4, and that is the first S1 Pro by itself. And I want to repeat again that that was right before clipping. So it was super clean, nice and loud, but it can go louder if you want to push the speaker. But I wanted to keep it right below where there's any distortion. The next figure, 101.2 decibels, and this was when I engaged the first sub-1 with one S1 Pro on top. And this was my shock to myself because I was expecting a big dB jump, and instead it went from 100.4 to 101. So it was a slight increase in decibels, but the perceived bass was huge. And again, you're not going to be able to tell that from the video, but when you're in person, that one subwoofer was a huge difference. The next figure, 103.2, that's where I disengaged the subwoofer, and I had the S1 Pros playing as a pair. And it was quite a difference playing two of them. Again, no bass, so now you have your 3 dB increase. And that's pretty much standard. That's pretty much what literature tells you. When you add the same speaker, same woofers, same tweeters, same volume, it increases 3 decibels. This was the last test. This was pretty much with the whole system on at the same time. The pair of S1 Pros with the pair of Sub1s playing all together. So I got a total of 103.7 dBs. Again, going back to the original figure, which was 100.4. So you're gaining about 4 decibels when you add all the subs and the 2 tops. It doesn't seem like a lot, but again, in person, the bass, the low end, was just incredible. So when you're playing a DJ situation with people dancing, they're coming to feel that bass, not so much to hear extra volume. So what this experiment taught me was when you add subwoofers, you basically can't figure more number of guests. You're not going to jump from 100 people to 175 just because you add 2 subwoofers. That's not going to happen. The enjoyment of those people that are there, it'll be great. The music is going to sound so much better, full range, but you just can't add numbers of guests by adding low end. Okay, a couple of pictures wrapping up. This is again a picture of the 2 Sub1s coupled together and using a single S1 Pro on a short stand. This is my favorite setup. Your 2 S1 Pros on poles, separated 10 to 15 feet apart. I guess, again, obviously I can't separate them up that distance apart in the home. And you have your subwoofers in the middle coupled. This is just a picture from the rear showing the neat setup. 2 S1 Pros, one of them is not connected by any wiring. Power unit, very neat. Again, for small weddings, this would look great. And the last photo, same idea except side view. This wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed it. It was interesting making the video. I learned some interesting facts. I've pretty much done a lot of testing on Bose S1 Pros. So my next videos will be taking a step up, comparing the S1 Pro to other speakers of different companies. And that should be interesting. More power, larger speakers. Obviously, they'll probably play louder, but will it be worth the extra money usually when you go to a larger speaker, more weight? Or is the portability and the battery power and Bluetooth, is it worth it to remain with the S1 Pro? Anyway, we'll see. Those will be the next videos. Hope you enjoyed.